So today we saw what clearly appears to be the largest single ICE raid in American history. This took place at a Hyundai manufacturing plant in the state of Georgia, and the current estimation is that about 475 illegal aliens were detained and arrested at a single facility, which really makes you beg the question, how is that even possible? Forget, okay, a couple dozen illegal aliens, 500 all working at the same exact site. Well, needless to say, indeed, this is what I voted for. Now, as you could imagine, the left wing is already melting down and having a panic attack about this, except they're kind of running into an issue here. And that's that, well, in this case, the vast majority of people who were detained, it was some 300 or so of the workers here, were not Latinos, because they've been saying this is exclusively targeting Latinos. No, turns out the illegal aliens in this case were South Korean nationals. And so they're taking a different narrative here, now claiming that this is undermining diplomatic relations with South Korea, that we're deporting their own citizens who are illegally working, it would appear here, back to South Korea. Apparently, South Korea is not undermining diplomatic relations with us by sending illegal aliens over here to work for us, while claiming that, as you've heard recently, they're going to be investing in the United States, they're going to be building manufacturing, they're creating jobs for Americans, and it turns out that's not what's happening, because they're just sending people over here to take those jobs there for themselves, right? But nonetheless, we will talk about this. We'll show you apparently what the South Koreans are saying, as well as relate this to a great irony, as you heard even in the opening clip, and the way left-wingers always talk about these issues, that, oh, Americans won't work these jobs, but then simultaneously they're claiming that the unemployment is a big problem and that Americans don't have jobs, but still let's insist on giving them out to the illegal aliens. So in so many different regards, these people are disingenuous, but we'll bring you those full details and talk about this historic ICE raid in today's video. So folks, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, here you can see the sights and sounds. 475 illegal aliens arrested at a Georgia Hyundai factory, biggest single site raid by DHS in history. So here is the visual of that.
We're Homeland Security. We have a search warrant for the whole site. We need construction to cease immediately. We need all work to end on the site right now. Warrant.
You can see it's basically the entire plant there who is currently being detained. Again, 475 people. Let's take a listen here to the full CNN report on it, so we can hear the meltdown. So check it out.
We're following a massive ICE raid at a Hyundai plant in Georgia. Officials say roughly 450 undocumented migrants were apprehended. Now, Thursday's raid was carried out by multiple state and federal law enforcement agencies, including ICE, the FBI, and the Georgia State Patrol. I want to bring in CNN's Isabel Rosales, who's been monitoring this. So, Isabel, what is the latest this morning?
Omar, good morning. With more than 450 people apprehended, this marks what appears to be one of the largest ICE raids at a single site in the 22-year history of this agency. Now, here's what we know. This happened at the Hyundai Meta plant site. This is in Ella Bell, Georgia. This is just 25 miles or so west of Savannah. And according to the Associated Press, this raid stopped construction of this factory that's being built to produce batteries for electric vehicles. This same site, this same project, this was touted by Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp, who called it the largest economic development site in the state's history. Now, we have video that we're showing in pieces here of masked and armed agents there at the site, giving out orders while officers raided the facility. We can also see workers here in hard hats and vests. They were lined up as this was ongoing. On site was ICE, Georgia State Patrol, FBI, DEA, ATF.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Economic development for who, right? Because, again, this is part of something Trump's been pledging or trying to get done, which is foreign investment into the United States, right? Hyundai, Korean companies, Japanese companies, Arab companies, hey, bring your data centers here, bring your manufacturing. That's what we want. We want it done in the United States. But there's a bit of a problem when the whole point of the investment is to bring jobs and bring prosperity to Americans. And yet it's all going exclusively, it would appear here, like almost unanimously, 500 freaking people almost, to foreigners, whether that's South Korean nationals or just like cheap labor they found off of the street. Like, I understand Hyundai is a Korean company, so you're probably going to have some Koreans come over to work. Okay, the executives, the plant managers, yes, that all makes sense. 300 of them, though? And of course, what are they going to say? Oh, Americans won't work those jobs because they're too grueling or whatever. Oh, but the South Koreans will, right? You're going to bring people from halfway around the world to a totally alien country, right? And by the way, it's not exactly like South Korea is a third world country. They're a first world economy like us. You know, people compete, high-tech jobs, all these things. So you can find that labor in South Korea, but people mean to tell me in this gigantic country, especially in a state like Georgia, where, you know, there's plenty of still blue collar culture going on. You can't find a single American to work those jobs. This is such an important point to remember. It's not an issue of they can't find the Americans. It's that they don't want to find the Americans. You have nepotism going on here. Perhaps in some cases, they believe foreign labor is simply cheaper, or even if it's not better, cheaper and easier to control, because American workers actually have rights and they demand good treatment and they can negotiate and they have the freedom to go somewhere else. Whereas when it comes to most foreign work visas in the United States, your ability to stay in this country is based on your employment status. Basically, if they fire you, you got to leave. And if it's an illegal, that's even worse because they can just call ICE on you if you don't cooperate, right? So that's exactly what is going on here. And this is exactly why, yes, it is fully consistent, because some people are going to say the opposite. No, it is fully consistent with Trump's vow to bring manufacturing and investment back to the United States, that you make it clear you're not going to be able to undercut that. You're not going to be able to manipulate us. If you're still violating immigration law, then we're going to bust you for that. No, these opportunities are supposed to be for Americans. And by the way, as we'll talk about later in the video, if you're going to claim that the jobs market is tight, that Americans are struggling, which they are and they have been long before the inauguration, then don't tell me, oh, Americans just are snobby, they don't want to work these jobs. No, plenty of Americans right now are struggling to find work, will work jobs, but you won't even give it to them. You prioritize, you immediately rush to give it to a foreigner. Why is that? So
they were executing, Omar, a search warrant that DHS says is part of an ongoing criminal investigation into this, quote, allegations of unlawful employment practices and other serious federal crimes. They're saying that this sends a clear and unequivocal message, too, that they're taking this very serious. And here is the special agent in charge, what he had to say about this raid.
We are making many arrests of undocumented individuals. We have encountered many lawful employees working here, United States citizens and lawful permanent residents, and they are, of course, being released.
Meanwhile, Hyundai says it is cooperating with law enforcement, saying this: we are committed to abiding by labor and immigration regulations. And meanwhile, Omar, on this same day, hundreds of miles away in upstate New York, another large raid at a work site. Dozens of workers at a family-owned plant that makes nutrition bars were also apprehended during an ICE raid. CNN affiliate WSTM reports that about 60 workers were detained. New York's governor condemned this raid, saying it doesn't make their streets safer. And the owner of that nutrition plant told the New York Times that the workers had legal documentation to work in the U.S., calling this ICE raid a, quote, overkill. Omar.
Yeah, well, that's what I voted for. We've been waiting, frankly, for the moment where ICE raids will pick up more than just a couple dozen people. 500, right? That now you're on pace. Now you're doing the scale of which we wanted to see happen, right? Because there has to be mass enforcement operations. People say it's extreme. No, what's extreme is the fact that Joe Biden opened the border to, some estimates say, like close to 10 million people. So equally, the reaction to it, the response has to be a massive response. Don't call us radical, call the predecessor radical. We're just responding with the same level of action, I guess you could say, that the prior one unleashed on us that was bad, right? Reaction, action, reaction. It really is that simple. Anyways, though, you can see some more of the sights and sounds here. And this is putting the South Korean government in an awkward position. Because them and, Hyundai, Samsung, they're kind of sort of quasi-state-run companies, right? There's a close relationship there. Today, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Korea said that its citizens' rights must not be violated in the course of Korean businesses' work in the United States, noting that many of its nationals were detained at a Hyundai facility. So, look, I don't think that's exactly what's going on here, but take a listen.
9월 4일 목요일.
On Thursday, September 4th in local time, the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement conducted a raid at the construction site of our company's battery plant in the state of Georgia, during which many of our nationals were detained.
구금되었습니다. 미국의 법 집행
The economic activities of our companies investing in the United States and the interests of our citizens must not be unduly violated during the course of US law enforcement.
서울에서도 오늘 주한 미국 대사관
In Seoul, we also conveyed our concerns and regret through the US Embassy today, urging special attention to ensure that the legitimate rights and interests of our citizens are not violated.
유의해 줄 것을 당부하였습니다.
Right, so that all sounds fine. But we have to make sure the rights of our own citizens are not violated too. We have to make sure our own laws are enforced. I seriously doubt that an American company, which are barely allowed to operate in a lot of those Asian nations like Japan and Korea, etc., China as well. But if an American company went to South Korea and just blatantly broke all their labor laws, and they sent over a bunch of Americans without proper work authorization to go work in them, I don't think you could really blame South Korea for saying, no, this has to be stopped, right? So notice the double standard. And this double standard, frankly, applies to every debate over illegal immigration. It's really frustrating to me because people always say, oh, but they've been here. They're part of the community. You can't remove them. Deporting illegal aliens is really cruel. And I always respond to that by saying, okay, let's remove America from the conversation for a second. Let's just make this a basic debate over, enforcing laws. So let's say that I, for instance, want to illegally live in Japan. So I go there, and this is how a lot of illegal immigration happens, by the way, is visa overstays. I go there on a tourist visa or exemption or whatever. I stay there, and I tell them, I'm gonna be only here a couple weeks. I just stay for 5 years. I just start living there. I'm buying property. I'm working without permission, etc. So if one day I got stopped by the police, and the Japanese police said, hey, you overstayed your visa. You're working and living here illegally. You have to be deported. You have to go back home. Would you call Japan a cruel country for doing that? Whatever country it is, I don't know, France, any foreign country, just not in the context of the United States in our conversation. Or would you say, and I think most Americans in that case would actually say, okay, you got me. I broke the law. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not a citizen of this place. They're sending me home. It is what it is. You certainly would not compare that to Nazism. You certainly would not say that's the Gestapo or whatever. No, that's a genuine enforcement of immigration law. And yet when the same thing happens here in the United States, right? A very common sense enforcement. Hey, you overstayed your visa. Hey, you're not supposed to be there. Hey, you're working without authorization. What are you doing here? No, you can't do that. That's so cruel. You're violating people's rights. No, we're not actually. And, in any case, and then let me also put it this way. So if I'm supposed to stay my visa 90 days and I stay 95 days, okay, whatever, right? But then somehow, if I take it more egregiously, imagine I'm there on a 90-day visa and I stay for 4 or 5 years. To me, that's actually worse than staying the 95 slightly overstay because you're just in blatant disregard. You have no intention to fulfill it. You have no intention to go back home. But the argument around a lot of these illegals becomes, oh, well, they've been here for 5 years. It's compassion. It's cruel. It's not compassionate, I should say, to make them go back home. What do you mean? They've been flagrantly violating immigration law, not just for a couple of days, but for a couple of years, in some cases several years, in some cases several decades. To me, that's extremely egregious. No, that's actually a bigger reason for them to go back home. So you see the conversation here? Okay. Just want to point that out. Anyways, you can see the liberal reactions here as well, saying the White House is extorting South Korea with tariffs to get them to invest more in the United States. I mean, yes, that is kind of what happened. Then Hyundai announces its plan to invest tens of billions directly into the United States. Then ICE raids a Hyundai factory and mass detains hundreds of South Korean nationals. And the liberals are mocking this, saying, what? This is counterintuitive. But again, I say, no, this is the entire point. Right? We want investment in the United States to create jobs and opportunities for Americans. When you're hiring a bunch of illegal aliens, especially from your own country, okay, so you built a construction in the United States, I guess, you're paying some taxes, but what opportunity is that creating for the actual American citizens? That's the whole point here. Do you guys not get this? That's the whole point. We want these jobs to go to Americans. Now, of course, what's the central argument? Americans won't work these jobs. We hear that time and time again. Except on the same day where liberals are saying this, they're also mocking Trump over a supposedly bad jobs report. Now, there's a lot of controversy in terms of this Bureau of Labor person and whether the jobs numbers are accurate. But I would say I do think the economy is in a slowdown. It's been in a slowdown ever since 2024, largely because the COVID stimulus money is drying up. And so things are constricting. I've been saying this for a long time, by the way, even before Liberation Day. It's drying up. The bubble is essentially bursting. And during 2022, 2023, part of the reason you saw record runaway inflation is because of the fact that both consumers and businesses were spending more beyond their means because of the stimulus, right? Spending beyond their means, investing beyond their means, hiring beyond their means. I think a lot of the layoffs and job losses and slowdowns you're currently seeing are a product of that. I would argue that what Trump is trying to do with tariffs is not what's creating the economic problem. It's trying to solve it, right? Because it's trying to bring a real identity to an American economy that has thus far been just this fake bubble of alleged prosperity that's not really real. But anyways, that's all here to say that on one hand, you're claiming, oh, the jobs report is bad. Oh, there's high unemployment and there's all these mass layoffs. But then you're turning around and telling me that Americans won't work these jobs. To which I say, wait, so which one is it? So are Americans desperate? Does the jobs market suck? Or does it not? Because do you see the situation here? They're claiming that the jobs market needs foreign labor because there's not enough available or willing Americans to fill these positions, but then simultaneously attacking Trump for the fact that a bunch of Americans are looking for work, but how dare you try to go to Hyundai, for instance, and get them to have work and jobs for American people? See the disconnect here, right? That's why I say the myth here, the narrative that has long been spoken that Americans won't work these jobs is utter nonsense. I think, frankly, and I'll tell you this as a Gen Z individual, okay? There is a massive unemployment problem in my generation. And this is not something that started in 2025. It's been going on ever since COVID, right? Which is young people go to college, they graduate. They're not all graduating with gender studies degrees, okay? We're talking computer science, engineering, business, stuff like that that's supposed to be considered better or more practical. And they leave the workforce. They leave the school, I should say, and they can't find a job. They're living with their parents. They worked hard in college. You're not like some random bums who are smoking weed or whatever, right? And why is that? It's because, largely speaking, a lot of this work is going to foreign labor. And also, I would argue to some degree, maybe the white-collar workforce pool is overfilled because too many people are going to college, whereas there's a shortage of blue-collar work, which is all to say what? If you have a problem where a bunch of young people are unemployed, there's a tightening in, say, white-collar work, and a lot of it's being filled by foreigners, and then there's this blue-collar openings because of deportations and a reorienting of tariff policy and all that stuff. There's an obvious pool of Americans who will fill these jobs. It's, of many cases, the young Americans who are looking for freaking work. And yet the Democrats just spit on these people. They say, oh, no, and then turn around and call Trump the bad guy for trying to create opportunities for them. No, Americans can work these jobs. They're available to work these jobs. Again, you say unemployment is a crisis. So then put the Americans to work and stop defending the fact that companies are not even trying to hire Americans. They're just blatantly and flagrantly bringing in a bunch of foreign labor because they feel like it's easier. They feel like they can just take advantage, or there's maybe ethnic nepotism going on, all those types of things. Okay. So anyways, that's all to say. Major victory here today. Very proud to see it. You love to see it. That said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.